Welcome to the Extreme Sports Performance Podcast. My name is Ryan Blake. I'm the founder and director of Extreme Sports Performance, as well as the host of this show. The mission of this is to empower high-performing action and endurance sports athletes to elevate their competitive edge through advanced performance protection and opportunity-driven systems. By harnessing the expertise, insights and strategies of real-world professionals to help athletes release limits and unlock potential to achieve peak performance in their sport. The vision of this is to be the ultimate resource for adrenaline junkies and weekend warriors, providing practical applied sports science strategies to overcome challenges and solve problems without sacrificing personal well-being. We strive to build a thriving community of extreme sports enthusiasts who embrace the balance between pushing the boundaries and maximising enjoyment in what they love to do. In this episode, I'm speaking with Will Asher. Will is a professional water skier and current world number one. We discuss what initially drew him to the sport, what have been his highs and lows, what does the education, support and coaching of his sport look like, what things does he see done well in his sport, what things does he see not done so well in his sport, what are the most valuable things he's learned, what does it take someone to be world class level at water skiing, where does he see the sport going in the next 5 to 10 years, what's his top piece of advice to help someone become better at water skiing, and much more. Okay, here we go. Will, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on. Please, can you start by giving a brief introduction about yourself and your background?
Yeah, hi, my name is Will Asher. I'm a professional water skier. I've been doing water skiing my whole life. I've been a professional now for over 20 years. I'm the current world number one. That's basically where we're at. I'm just an older guy still maintaining some level of performance in a pretty challenging sport.
Awesome. So what was it that initially drew you to water skiing?
Well, really, for me, it wasn't even a choice. My family, that's basically what they've done. My granddad built a water ski lake when I was 3 in Hazelwood Ski World in England. And
Mhm.
basically, that's where we spent all our time. It wasn't, I grew up thinking it was normal, but I guess it wasn't exactly normal. It's just what our family did. You have families that do racing cars or whatever. We just water ski.
Mhm. And when did you move out to where you are now?
Yeah, so I left home when I was probably about 18. Spent a couple years in America training, and then went to
Mhm.
college in Louisiana. So I got my degree there, and then graduated 2007. And since then, I've lived in my house here in Claremont, Florida.
Amazing. So what would you say have been your memorable highs and memorable lows from the sport over the course of your career?
And memorable highs. I'd say winning. There's something special about, like, now in retrospect, looking back, having a world champion attached to your name is pretty special and very memorable.
Hmm.
That's kind of one of those things that always sticks with you, even though I won my last one in 2009. So it's been many, many years. It's still something that just kind of stays with you. And, that's really special. Yeah, probably getting a world title. Yeah.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
have you had any trouble or struggles with any injuries over your career?
I've had nothing serious. Like, I've been
Okay.
very, very fortunate. I, you could say I've tried to learn from people before me, as far as,
Hmm.
common injuries could be a binding setup, or,
Hmm.
decisions they make equipment wise, or,
Yeah.
even just your approach to competition in general. Like, are you going to be completely crazy and be a kamikaze, or are you going to live to fight another day? And I just said, man, there's always another day.
Yeah, sure
So
thing.
yeah.
Well, we'll come on more to the specifics of the training you do a bit later. Just wanted to ask, like, what does the kind of education, the support, the coaching of high level water skiing kind of look like at the moment? And is there room for improvement anywhere?
Yeah, there's definitely room for improvement. I'm sure it's the same as any sport. There's
Hmm.
you kind of have there's always a push to modernize or improve, or people come up with new theories and new ideas.
Hmm.
You could say I'm probably more of the old school in a way.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it just comes back down to basic physics, and so for me, it's just been, you know, if you can master the basics, then a lot of the other stuff take care of themselves. But there's definitely, with social media and YouTube and high quality cameras, there's more information and more, the technical aspect is becoming more involved in the sport. Yeah.
sure thing. And what does a kind of a typical year look like for you in kind of the worlds of training and performance and competition? And then how do you go about preparing for that?
Yeah, so our season, if we do the full season, the first event will be in Moomba Masters. That's
Hmm.
in March, beginning of March. I've chosen to not do that the last couple of years. It's kind of thick into my off season, and I do a lot of cycling and other sports in the winter, and
Hmm.
mentally that is a huge part of my growth and continuation in the sport over the last several years. So
Yeah.
I really value my off season.
Hmm.
So you could say my first pro event will be next. It's actually going to be next weekend. So it'll be Memorial Day weekend, which is typically the last weekend in May.
Yeah.
And then our last event could be anywhere from, I think, October or October, November. November's like really too late for me, and I
Hmm.
I go to them, but historically I've failed. So
Yeah,
I
sure.
think I think I've already checked out. That's mentally too long for me.
Yeah, sure thing. And so how do you go about kind of splitting up your off season, your pre-season, your in-season, and what different types of training do you do in those periods?
Yeah, so the um, off season I try to have a clear break from water skiing, like
Yeah.
mentally and physically. It's kind of in the past years when I've been deep in the hole of burnout. It's hard to live actually. I don't know if you can see behind me, but I live on a water ski lake.
Yeah.
So I would kind of come into my house and park at the top of the hill and come in the back door where I can't see the lake, and then I'd shut the doors behind me and shut the blinds and everything so I couldn't see the lake. So I go through periods of just wanting to have a full removal from the sport,
Yeah.
and in that time I try and do lots of other things like cycling or kiteboarding or foiling. Or um, I think it kind of comes back to when you're a kid, you don't want to early specialize,
Hmm.
and I believe as an so then I also don't understand why that's not true for an adult. Like why suddenly you get to be 18, 20 years old and your whole focus is this one thing that you do.
Hmm.
So I've over the last several years, I've really tried to fail often at lots of different activities. And in that process, I've been able to grow and learn about myself. And, it's opened a lot of horizons as far as even what I do on the water. It's changed my whole perspective on things.
Yeah, sure thing. That's really
Yeah.
interesting. So if you were going to split down like the different kind of key fitness components, so if we're looking at strength, power, endurance, flexibility, mobility, like would
Mm-hmm.
you say that there's one specific one that stands out for you that is key, or is it more of a trying to surf the curve and blend them all together?
That's a really good question. I've done everything you could say
Hmm.
in the past. I've been a gym rat. I've been tried to do a lot of running or cycling. I've really found that water skiing itself is such a power-based sport, and
Hmm.
as long as my body feels somewhat balanced, then
Hmm.
skiing kind of can take care of the strength element for me,
Hmm.
and the power and the physical demands that I need. I can
Hmm.
ramp up training, run more passes, have more volume. Then when it comes to event season, like I have that whole base to work from.
Yeah.
Um, so then, that being said, every activity I do outside of water skiing, I do because I enjoy it, not
Yeah.
necessarily for water skiing itself. Like I,
Hmm.
I wouldn't exactly prescribe um, cycling as you're not going to look at a cyclist and be like, oh, that
Yeah.
guy's a wicked water skier, right?
Yeah, sure.
But then historically, water skiers have made really good cyclists. So that also tells me there is an element of crossover, whether it's core
Sure.
strength and power and leg strength and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
Andy Mappel was a Florida State time trial champion. Like
Okay.
that's, I know people might not think of Florida as a cycling place, but it actually
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Yeah. So
Okay. No,
that being said,
that's really interesting. So if we look at skiers, athletes like yourself who, are at the top of their game, like what do you see them do well? And then conversely, what do you see people who are struggling do not so well?
Good question as well. I think the ability to process the information and break it down into something that's simple and manageable, I think
Hmm.
is a really good skill for a high level performer. Um, I can have a very deep understanding of the sport, obviously doing it for my whole life. I have more information than I need. So then it's the ability to defragment like an old computer and somehow get all that noise and background information and try and condense it into a solid idea that you
Yeah.
can then ask questions of. So set a hypothesis of, okay, if I attack the course or the process in this way, does that increase performance and make it super focused? And then, you know, the the opposite of that would be someone that can just or is hyper focused on every single little detail. My pinky was in the wrong place, or I looked in the wrong place, or uh, you know, you list the thing that really doesn't matter as when it comes to performance. I'd say that seems to be a main common constant thing I notice between a high performer and someone that's maybe not quite making it.
Yeah, sure thing. That makes lots of sense. So if we look at things from more of a holistic perspective with all of the things that you've learned and done from skiing, like what would you say the main lessons that you've learned are from performing or competing at your sport at the highest level?
I think an important one is this feeling will pass.
Hmm.
And I mean that like, if you're stressed or just the weight of everything is on top of you, like this feeling will pass and the ability to get past that. I've
Hmm.
I've learned that over time because, athletes, it's all about us. It's internal, it's how we're performing, it's the highest level of self-actualization.
Yeah,
And it can really it can really beat down on an athlete. So just understanding that, hey, yeah, you might feel down and out of it right now, but there will be a moment. Keep working, trust the process. That's been really helpful for me.
hmm,
And then I take that into everything I do. And as long as you keep moving one step in front of the other, feel like you're making progress. If there's a way you can be better tomorrow than you were today, even if it's something micro like making your bed, just how
yeah,
simple,
sure,
how small can you
yeah,
make the
yeah,
success on that particular day to feel like you had a win? It doesn't always have to be, you're not going to win a world championship every single day. So that puts things into perspective from being a world champion today to possibly making your bed and just putting stuff into perspective and
yeah,
taking the weight of the world off you and kind of bringing it down.
sure thing. Yeah, that makes so much sense, and it's often the simpler things which make the biggest differences, right? Whereas in the experience that we've had working with athletes in various sports, they consider the biggest changes or the most dramatic in things that they can implement to make the biggest differences. But it largely comes down to high quality, consistent, small things done well over time, which add up and compound. So
Definitely.
that makes lots of sense. With regards to the amount of time you've been skiing, how have you seen things change in terms of the technological side of things and the equipment and things like that? And has it made a noticeable difference or offered challenges, or has it actually made things easier?
There's definitely improvements. I mean,
Mm,
I think back 20 years ago, you know, there might have been one ski on the market that could work at any particular time. And now, the understanding and you could say the tests have been done to where that's starting to get more and more narrowed down to, especially if you can take a whole body of work, right? Like even
mm.
my personal body of work, some things worked, some things didn't. Over time, you just kind of get pretty laser focused on what really does and what really doesn't work. I mean, most of a big part of what I do is competition, obviously, but it's R and research and development is my main focus. So water ski design, water ski development. So I feel like I'm in the thick and the weeds of that. And
Mhm.
I really think they're getting a lot better as far as performance. And
Yeah.
the equipment's it's driven by a theory of optimizing the way someone wants to compete or the way someone really needs to ski to run the shortest line lengths, um,
Mhm.
or the highest performances.
Yeah.
And then just little things like ropes got better, handles got better, boats got better, courses became more accurate, buoy sides got smaller, softer. Like it's easier to attack those things when a more of a movable object than an immovable
Yeah.
object.
Yeah. Sure.
Less
Sure.
less broken ankles, less
Yeah. Yeah.
you name the list of
Yeah.
ailments and injuries.
Got it. And
Yeah,
do you see things changing or advancing over the next 5 to 10 years in any way with the sport in the future?
I hope so. Yeah,
Mm.
I think there's things we do on the water that it's really hard to get across to people watching, to sense the feeling of the speed and the power and the just the intensity of running the slalom course at short line
Mhm.
lengths. It's kind of gets lost. I got a really good friend, he's ex motocross supercross champion, and he'd watched from the shore before. And then last week I said, "Hey, dude, just come get in the boat, come watch." And the first thing he said was, "Holy crap, that's fast and that's powerful and that's
Yeah.
intense."
Yeah.
And he like had this whole sensation around it and feeling of being involved in that, which is really hard to capture, through a screen or through a lens, or if you get people to experience it, you have people on the water all the time. If they can get to experience it very few and far between. You find someone that doesn't get addicted or hooked or somewhat want to be
Yeah.
more involved in it. So it's just
Yeah.
hard to get that feeling across. Yeah,
100%. I think
yeah,
there's a huge difference between in the moment or kind of around the moment. And like if you can see, hear, and feel it, it's so much more real than
yeah.
if you can't. So that makes complete sense.
Yeah, so I mean, we're trying to do more with the social media. I work, my cousin Rob Hazelwood and all the stuff we're doing at HO with
Yeah.
the social media and the videos. Just trying to, I mean, our lifestyles, it's pretty cool. Like it's a really neat lifestyle. It's really healthy. It's fun. Just I feel like there's a lot of value in it just for generally for people in life, like to enjoy life and have better experiences with it.
Mm.
There's opportunity there.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah,
So what would you say if someone's listening to this and they are, they're I don't know, recreational level skier and they want to get better, but they're maybe unsure how, or they've reached kind of a ceiling of where they currently are. What would be your kind of top piece of advice to give them to help them improve and things they can consider working on, which might not be that well known or that obvious?
yeah. So a lot of people get technique driven. So
Mm.
it's very much like, okay, if you got to, just for example, you got to counter rotate or get your weight on your front foot or some photographic moment in the course. And
Mhm.
I try and focus more on the macro look of the course, like the rhythm, the intensity. Most people are not intense enough. So I'll tend to get people to go outside their comfort zone. So if you can, you know, like put things to a number system. So if you're operating at an intensity of a 4, like show me what an 8 looks like. And if you go to an 8, hey, what happens if you go so far you can just crash out? And just try and find limits in intensity in the course. And I think most of the time I watch people, I'm like, you guys aren't even trying. You're just so focused on trying to look good, or like at a certain point you've got to learn to accept the load. You got to get the load, and then try and progress and understand it from there. Um, that seems to be a thing that constantly comes up with me. And then most of the things that people think about, it's the what is it the things you're actively thinking about ultimately stop you reaching your goal.
Mhm.
So the things you believe to be true could actually be the things that are holding you back from reaching your goal, like a
Mhm.
technique moment, or just because it's in words doesn't mean that it's true.
Yeah, sure thing.
Simplifying and the defragmenting. Yeah,
Again, it's kind of similar to what we discussed earlier, right? About trying to not overcomplicate things and just focus on the doing and not the necessarily the what ifs and,
yeah,
and breaking it down that way. Yeah, so that makes loads of sense. Awesome. So what does the rest of 2025 look like for you, Will? What have you got coming up?
Yeah, so I'm just coming out of my off season really,
Yeah.
or you could say I've just gone through my preseason phase. So I've
Hmm.
skiing too much, hands hurt, body hurts. Probably should be starting to taper. We have Masters this next weekend.
Yep.
So the US Masters are coming up in Callaway Gardens, Pine Mountain, Georgia. And then from there, 2 weeks later, we go to Europe. So then we have a European tours of events where we go to Morocco. It's not in Marrakesh this year. Still in Morocco. Then we go to South France in Roquebrune, which is actually called a Monaco event. It's run by the Monaco Federation.
Hmm.
Then we go to South France. Then we go to Spain and Italy. And that'll be kind of a 5 week series, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then hopefully somewhere dotted in there, I'm going to spend some time in Lincoln, England, Hazelwood Ski World, and
Hmm.
just be around family and get back to my roots for some time. That's kind of my next period. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds really cool. Well, we wish you the very best of luck with that. I hope it goes
Yeah.
well.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I hope the weather's good to you in the UK. It's been a bit up and down lately.
Yeah.
And one last question I had, which I always like to ask athletes, is how do you kind of cope with travel and being away from home and staying at places which aren't familiar to you, like your own house? Are there any kind of tips or tricks that you've picked up which can help make it easier?
That's a good one. Try and sleep more if you
Yeah.
can. Like
Yeah.
use it as an opportunity for rest.
Yeah.
Don't go into hibernation though. Still be active. If you can find a
Okay.
way to get out and experience the town, go for a walk, stuff like that. That really
Hmm.
helps me. I think then just try and enjoy it as much as possible.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't think there's maybe no secret sauce, but
Another one that's just come to mind. Sorry, these are coming at you in such a random order.
no, it's all good. Let's
Um,
go.
how do you kind of manage nutrition? Do you feel that is important to you, and does that have a direct effect on your performance?
Yeah, I try and eat cleanly. I think eating is complicated enough. Like there's no need to make it more complicated. So I don't
Yeah.
measure my food or weigh it or, get psycho with it like that.
Hmm.
I try and make good choices, good decisions. I figure the closer it is to the garden or the least amount of steps it is from creation to table, that seems to be a good lesson or rule.
Yeah.
Um, if you're in Italy, eat lots of pizza. If you're
Yeah.
outside of Italy, maybe don't.
I like
Eat
that.
what the
That's
locals eat, that kind of stuff.
that's a
Yeah,
that's a great tip. Awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, look, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy and we've got lots going on. And if
Thank you.
people are listening to this and they want to kind of find out a little bit more about you, check out your profile, what's the best place for them to go to do that?
I mean, I think Instagram is probably the most updated.
Yeah.
I get, people are tagging me and I tag, we kind of have that seems to be the place to go to get more just, day to day stuff.
I'll make sure to put that link in the show notes for everyone listening. But Will, thanks again for your time. It was a pleasure to talk to you and best of luck for this year.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed the show. It would be really helpful if you could please leave a rating and or review on whatever platform you're listening on. Is there someone you know who would benefit from hearing what you've just heard? Then share the love by sending them a link. Be sure to check out our website www.extremesportsperformance.com that has details about the ESP blog, more information about this podcast, taking our performance overview online assessment, joining our online extreme sports community, our online training programs, our online nutrition plans, our flagship online athletic development coaching program, our in-person consultancy services, and how to get in touch if you have any questions. Follow us on social media at LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and YouTube. Links to these can be found at the bottom of all of our web pages and via any search engine. Until next time, go well.